I'm going to ask Dr. Cobb if you would offer the
Lord, we come and ask you to guide us and give us wisdom in all we do here today and in the future. We ask that you give our newly elected officials in Washington the same wisdom. Please watch out for all of our troops and their families around the world. Thank you. Amen.
Next, we have roll call.
Julia Coates here. Don Garvin. Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzer.
Here.
Bradley Cobb.
Bonnie.
Joe Crittenden.
Yes.
Jody Fishinghop. Here. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Chuck Hopkins Jr.
Here.
Hannah Glory Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton.
Present.
Eric Allen Watts. Honey, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the minutes from December 15th. Do I hear a motion?
Move that they're approved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Any opposed? And we'll move to reports, and we will hear first from Diane Kelly.
Thank you, Dr. Coates. I apologize for not being here yesterday when you had your subcommittee meeting, but I think my staff were here to handle any questions that you had. My report is in your packet. If you have any questions regarding Job Corps, vocational programs.
Dr. Cobb?
Question we talked about when you threw those footballs out.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing any basketballs?
Well,
Some of us play better basketball than we do football, so
no.
just keep that in mind.
Okay. Maybe for next year?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh. Jan's back there. Got her and Brenda to work on the basketballs and footballs.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Did you order enough to give a few extra to each council member?
We didn't order any
I
basketballs.
mean, if you do.
Oh, order some extras. Okay,
Then we
Dr.
get-
Morton, did you make a note of that? Councilman Jordan said, if we order basketballs next year, order extras, give them to council members.
We always have,
So noted.
we always have numerous grandmothers that call wanting them for their grandkids that somehow didn't catch them
Okay,
at the ball games.
okay, all right. Probably be a little bit warmer than the football season anyway.
Any others? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Executive Director's report, Dr. Martin. Morton. Sorry.
You have our reports from various departments. Be happy to answer questions if you have them. Then I would like to report to you on one particular item that has a great deal of excitement at the immersion school today. Okay. I just returned from observing a class at the immersion school, grade 2 and 3, combined class. Class was taught by Mrs. McCoy, who is in San Francisco at Apple headquarters. And of course the students could see her, hear her. She could see the students, hear the students, and the class went on as if she were in the room. It was fantastic. Just literally fantastic. So we think that we are on the cutting edge of technology as far as immersion is concerned, and that we will be able to broaden our sphere of influence in teaching anywhere with this type of arrangement. Apple has been extremely helpful. We do not have an actual package worked out with the company. At this point, it's just been their techies and our techies experimenting and having fun, but it worked. Of course, their vice president was in the meeting this morning. They were sitting in the background watching and like that too, that, hey, this is happening, and those kids are actually speaking the language and answering all of her questions. It was really, really great. And with that, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next, we have Head Start. Ms. Thompson.
Good afternoon. Are there any questions on my written report?
Any questions? Mr. Hosmer?
I don't know that it was on the report, but I did have a question generally about Head Start. Do you anticipate that any Head Start facilities will need to be closed within the next few years? I mean, do you plan that far ahead and anticipate that kind of closure? And if so, have you identified any facilities?
Yes, yes, and yes. The community assessment that we conduct annually dictates where we stay. It really profiles the community as being either a healthy area for future enrollment, and then, or otherwise, if we need to move. And we do have a couple of sites that are in question.
Is that information that you can share with us now, or you can forward to us?
We're really looking at Big Cabin, because there are no children there. We did relocate the Head Start site because Adair and Bonita absorbed all of our 4-year-olds, but since then we've contracted with Adair so that we still have Head Start practice in the public school, the comprehensive services. Big Cabin is now just early Head Start, and right now we don't have a waiting list there. So that would be one that I could point out that's really being reviewed, to not say yay or nay today, but the community assessment will happen in the spring, which will really tell the story.
And will you share that report with us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Buzzer?
Yes. Vernon, let me just throw this out and see what's happened here. I've had reports from different entities or communities, and one particular from the health center in Jay. When I worked here at the Nation, they used to bring these Head Start kids around during Halloween and bus them to different entities. And at the clinic, they said that they'd had their clinic all decorated up for those kids to come over, but they wouldn't allow them across the street to come over there. And then they said they cut the Head Start. I guess you used to have a graduation for those kids.
Yes.
And that's gone. And some other things have gone too, and I don't remember all that they told me, but was that because of
It varies from site to site. That's a parent decision. We let them decide, and if they want to go on, have graduation ceremonies or go trick-or-treating or whatever it might be, that's usually a parent decision.
Okay.
And most of them will opt to not have the additional candy because they pick so much up that evening during the regular trick-or-treating. And then in some areas, for instance here, we stopped busing them down to the complex for trick-or-treating because we had so many parents complain that their children were really scared to come down because there are a variety of costumes in the complex, and it scared them more than it was fun. They ended up crying, and it took the fun out of it.
Well, it's always good to hear the other side.
Yeah, well, we let the parents make a lot of those decisions.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Is Dr. Butler-Allen here for JOM, or is that you, Dr. Brown, today?
Madam Chair, I just received a notice from Shelley that she had an emergency and she could not be
Okay,
here.
all right, thank you. Ms. Stanley is not here either. Okay, we have her report. Mr. Baker?
Madam Chairman, if we could, during Dr. Gloria Sly's report, if we could move agenda item number 2 up so that it can be dealt with at the same time she's up. You can make that formal motion.
It's been moved and seconded to move agenda item number 2, the grade marker discussion, to as part of Dr. Sly's report coming up. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Dr. Sly, you are next then.
Good to see you this afternoon. You've heard my rewritten report. If there are any questions?
Mr. Baker?
Yes. I appreciate the work that Willard Mounts and Jamie Hothouse did at the Heritage Center
Yes.
on the GPR, trying to locate the basement there.
Oh, they did locate it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, what
Right.
they did.
Uh-huh.
I'm aware of that. But I know, having dinner with the professors that were there on the project,
Mhm.
they complimented the good work that they did on that, on the equipment. But I know that they said they needed more training in interpreting the data, and also probably needed additional software so that they could interpret it better. And they've been invited to attend a 3-week training session in Georgia, at University of Georgia in June.
In June?
So my comment is, could you check and see if they're willing to go or want to go? And then if you need funding for it,
Okay.
you let us know about
Yes.
that.
They are going to Austin or San Antonio the 29th of this month for additional training on software. And they're going to be looking at additional software down there that they were exposed to while working with
Okay, good.
with
Because they
the
said at the end
position.
of this 3-week course,
Uh-huh.
they would be able to come back and train other people, not only to operate the equipment, but to also interpret the data.
Okay,
And
so
I think
3
it would be
weeks
very
in June?
helpful to the Cherokee Nation if they could take that 3 weeks of training.
Okay.
Like I said, if they're willing,
Do you have the dates?
just in June. Willard and Jamie probably do, otherwise
I'll go for them. Okay. All right, thank you. I'll ask them.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Would you like to go ahead and present to us then on the chief's grave markers and the estimates that you received?
Yes, I received, and it was on my desk when I returned from our last meeting, but I received the estimate, cost estimate on this marker that I gave to you the last meeting. And the cost of that marker is $10,970 per marker. Now, Councilman Baker, you had requested that I contact a certain company.
Yes, Willis
Oh.
Monument.
Right. I was unable to do that. I couldn't find an address to contact them to send this. So if you'll give me, I was looking for something under Anadarko Monument Company or some, but I didn't find the specific one you were mentioning.
Okay.
So,
The one I mentioned is Willis Monument, that does all the historical markers for the Oklahoma Historical Society. But they have their own granite mountain there that they, so it should be a little more reasonable, but maybe not. But it is a red granite.
right. Well, and what we will do is when the purchaser orders these, should we order them, then what they will do, I will ask them to get a bid from Willis Monument Company, and that way they'll be included because they have to seek 3 bids, on these items. So,
Okay.
and we'll just make sure, just ask them specifically to request a bid from them, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Since I wasn't able to do what you did, you had requested.
Dr. Hudson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this the monument that, is this the marker at the gravesite or the one at the cemetery?
Historical site marker at the site. Right. Mhm. The gravesite are the little black ones that, in black granite with white etching.
Ms. Jordan?
So, Dr. Schreiber, this one is in addition to the one we were going to put at the grave?
No, instead of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's another option. We hadn't discussed this in several years when I had began the customer, and I'd moved a couple of times during that time, and then I went back and we were cleaning up my files, found this, I thought, oh, I bet they'll like this monument marker, historic site marker, much better than the one that they had looked at previously.
What was the cost of the ones previously that were just going to be at the gravesite?
We've ordered those, and that one, we've always had two. Grave marker, the specific grave marker, and a historic site marker.
Well, what was the cost of the other one?
The historic site marker was $2,000. But it was very plain, we needed to change the design on that one too.
And what's your budget? Do you have a budget?
I do have a budget. It was, I think, $39,000.
And you need 12 of them? How many? I thought.
No, for these, we will only need 8.
So it's 8 times 2,000 or 8 times 11,000? Is there anything in between?
There could be, because we didn't look at everyone, and then the company that that Councilman Baker mentioned, I didn't find the Willis Company and Monument Company, because I was looking for Anadarko, one in Anadarko.
Well, it is in that area.
Is there, okay, and so I don't have a quote from them, and it could be smaller. I'm not saying.
And then it mentioned in this letter that if the base was smaller, and I don't know how that would change your overall features, that it might save as much as $2,000.
The base is 4 foot by 4 foot by 1 foot. That's what they recommended.
Thank you very much.
And it, no matter which one we decide on, even if the budget's 39, and we're not going to buy them all at one time for one day to put them up every place. We had discussed having a rotation where we maybe do 2 a year, so you know we could supplement that budget if we chose a nicer monument. But I would request that Jack asked that
Willis
be contacted. I would certainly hope that all Terrell vendors would be given the opportunity for the.
Yes. That's just always assumed. But we wanted to include that one, but.
Dr. Cobb?
I think you've done this before, but I don't have it in front of me. Can you tell me what 8? Mark, where are those 8?
California Cemetery, Ross Cemetery, there's one up near Bartlesville.
Where Mr. Keeler's been?
Yes, Mr. Keeler, there'd be one
White
there.
Rose.
At White Rose. And we're not sure, I did some preliminary discussion with White Rose, but they needed to do some research on where their land was as opposed to people who had purchased lots there, individual lots.
I'll tell you exactly who you need to contact. Former Councilor Bill Johnson.
Yeah.
He was on that board, he can tell you.
Okay, but anyway, so they were doing that, and then I said as soon as I get that information, they need to contact us, and I would contact yourself, Mr. Baker, and others who were interested to go up and meet with them so that we could make decisions at that point. There were no decisions made, I just needed information.
Thank you.
Councilor Fulbright?
Am I overlooking this, or is the height and width and everything on there?
You're not overlooking it. When I included that, because they had not emailed this to me, I left it out of the packet. The height and everything is there.
It's 5 by 2.5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
would it be feasible to read those specs off so that everybody could hear what they are, or copy them? Yeah.
Or have it copied. The total, down to the base, from the base to the top of the monument is 5 foot, it's 5 foot by 2.5 feet by 1 foot. So that's a fairly big one. So 5 foot top. And then the base, of course, is 4 foot top and 1 foot. If you look at it from the top down, you can see where that base is. It's a little farther out from.
Is that it?
I'll leave this so that we can get copies.
Mr. Hoskin?
Madam Chair. You listed cemeteries, that wasn't an exhaustive list, I take it, there's others. I think Fairview Cemetery has Chief Buffington, is that included in your list?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I figured it wasn't an exhaustive list, but I didn't.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I knew what he was concerned with, and we'd already had a preliminary meeting, because I think at our subcommittee meeting when we discussed the grave markers and inscription and things, that we talked about doing that one as one of the first ones, so first sites.
And that was one of my questions too, Gloria, about the one over at Uchi. Is that on your list too? You didn't go through the whole list? Is it? Okay.
I didn't bring that folder with me, so I'm...
Okay, Jack said you did. All right, thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker, did you have your hand up earlier, or was that? Are there other questions?
Wherever the chiefs are buried, that we've got it on the list.
All right. So I guess we will continue this as an agenda item under old business perhaps for next month, when we may have additional estimates and additional information. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Next on the reports, we have the Cherokee Nation Education Corporation. However, in reviewing the minutes, there was a misunderstanding, and that this report was actually intended to be under the Rules Committee. So for this month at least, we will hear that report on January 29th. It may be that report will indeed be under this committee, but for now it will be on Rules. Okay. So that concludes the reports, and next we move to old business, and we have an analysis of the education scholarship. And Dr. Morton, are you going to present this, or who?
Actually, I had assumed this was the October report and whatever updates had been given for that.
Well, we've got copies of it, do we not? Is this in the book? Okay. So we have Counselor Baker, Counselor Fraley. Do you want to take the lead on the
I'll
discussion?
start. I'm not seeing it in front of me right this second, but after looking at the report, from the time we started, giving the $1,000 to this day, the cost of going to school has gone 14, 15, 12. Long story short, it's costing over $2,000 now for the same hours, the same books, the same everything is what it did when we started $1,000. So now I think when I did the math, the $2,100 was really the number that would just hold status quo of what the kids were receiving, like 10 years ago when they started at the $1,000 a semester, to present day cost, because I think everybody is very familiar with the books and tuition and how it's risen. I wish I had it in front of me. Is it in here, Shelley?
Handout.
The analysis, yeah.
Last page.
Last page. So anyway, long story short, I do not think $2,000 is out of line at all, and I'll turn it over to Meredith while I look through these notes to give you something in writing.
I think Mr. Hoskin must make a point.
I have a question, but I defer to the speaker.
I spoke with the chief, and he recalls that we agreed upon $1,500. We have researched the minutes, and no one can seem to find where we agreed on $1,500 per semester. So there's where the conflict is, if you call it a conflict. Is it $1,500 or is it $2,000? And Doug did an analysis. Did everyone get a copy of that? Doug did an analysis. And to do $2,000 per semester, we're about $2.6 million short to cover that amount. So I think if we're going to do 2,000, we have to determine where we're going to find where we're going to get 2.6 million based on Doug's analysis. So that's where we are, and it's for discussion here. And if we determine that we can find that money somewhere, then we will take it up in executive finance.
Mr. Hoskin?
I've got an eligibility question for Dr. Morton, which could go to the funding issue, because it'll depend on how many students are eligible. I mean, it appears from the numbers that we fund people in Cherokee Nation and we fund people out of district. And in fact, my understanding's been that we do that. Folks that are out of Cherokee Nation are lower priority, as I understand it. And then I've also heard that there's this issue of these contiguous counties where you may be eligible for the scholarship program. The website says very clearly, unless, I mean, I could be misreading it, that funding is not available to tribal citizens living outside Cherokee Nation area. So I'm confused as to the sort of the universe of eligible Cherokees that we're talking about here. And if we get some clarity on that, that'll help me understand how much we ought to be funding.
Those students who are funded who live outside the, well, first of all, let me back up. Let's take the actual geographic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. We fund in that area. Then some time ago, the council established a buffer zone around that area. 2 miles, what's it? The entire county that touches it is the buffer zone. And also, those counties in the states of Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri who touch Cherokee Nation territory are included. Now,
So
for those outside that area, whether it be Oklahoma or whether it be outside the state of Oklahoma, we only fund those who are Pell eligible.
So in your, make sure I look at the right document here. Your higher education scholarship report, you have these various charts, and the most recent one, the 2008 demographic summary, you've got out of district as one of the places. So does that could mean folks that are in those what I would call contiguous counties and somebody that lives in some other state, not in the contiguous county. All of those folks are reflected in that.
Are reflected right? in the out of area. That is correct. I would nod toward Jennifer once in a while to make sure I'm straight on this. In other words, Councilor Hoskin, we fund out of district 725 students out of the 2127 total.
That's for our higher education scholarship or our non-Pell or both?
That's right. That's for all.
All. And what we're talking about here in terms of funding, we're talking about the non-Pell program. Is that right? And it may be in here, but do we have a number for a non-Pell program and who's getting it, whether it's folks outside, inside? We don't have that. Well, thank you, man.
Did I just understand that we fund contiguous counties to Cherokee Nation and contiguous states?
No, counties in contiguous states.
Okay.
In other words, in the three counties bordering Arkansas,
Okay.
one in Missouri,
All right.
McDonald County, Missouri.
I thought-
And normally, we don't get over 1 or 2 or 3 from those
Okay. All right.
Counselor Hopkins.
And I'm just a little troubled by,
well, obviously, the website is wrong.
yeah, and I mean, it's just a little troubling to me because we've got, I mean, I don't know how many people it is, but I've got a
Yeah.
fair number of people that live in Kansas that apply for these, and they're doing it in spite of what's written here. And I guess going to the budget issue, I mean, to the extent we, and to the extent that we debate, folks who live outside Cherokee Nation or folks who live inside, I just want a handle on how many people that is, and I'm not sure I've got a handle on it. I'm not sure I understand how non-Pell people outside of Cherokee Nation are getting scholarships, or how many people outside Cherokee Nation are getting non-Pell scholarships.
Right, and now those that are in the bordering counties from other states are Pell and non-Pell.
Pell and non-Pell. But we don't know how many in those contiguous counties are Pell recipients, not non-Pell recipients. Excuse me.
No.
Are there other questions? Mr. Baker?
Comment. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm reading Doug's report, and he says that if we do $2,000, that we have a budget shortfall of $4,362,000. Then if we take all of the unappropriated dollars that we've got left in the budget of $2.7 million and appropriate it, then we'll have a shortfall of $1,658,000. That is money that has to cut some other program or be manufactured or whatever. We got to find it someplace else, and Callie has not brought that amount forward yet. Although I fully anticipate her to bring that forward along with more. But even if we took every dollar that is in carryover right now, we'd still be $1.6 million short. Okay. And if we took those outside of the 14 counties and left them out at 1,000, that would raise $1,450,000. Just on the short term until we could find those additional dollars. As a possibility of actually getting there within, then we're only $208,000 short of, if we take all unappropriated dollars and reduce the out of the 14 counties, then we've only got to come up with another $208,000. Now, these numbers that Doug have, how does that reflect on the numbers that you gave of folks that dropped out the first semester? 371. Is he including funding those 371?
Well, actually, you see, the funding picture would be for this spring and next fall. We
Right.
don't know what the dropout rate is from fall '08 to spring '09 because we're accepting applications now. We will know the dropout rate. It usually runs around 20%. Now, considering the current economic situation, we think will affect that, but we don't know whether up or down.
Right.
I think it's going to affect that. It may cause more persons to say, hey, I better stay in school. So that dropout rate may be reduced. But normally, I think last year it was 23% that we lost from.
So he has accurate numbers that we need to fund for this semester.
Yeah, so actually, to play safe, you have to fund the full fall enrollment of '08.
Right.
To play safe. You're going to you'd have a surplus, but you can't afford to appropriate less funds than if 100% stayed in school. Or
Right.
somewhere along the way, we'd really.
I just didn't know if Doug's figures had taken into account, if he had the old numbers and now you've got dropout numbers. But that's come and gone. He has the correct numbers in his calculations.
Ms. Ketcher, can you elucidate for us on this?
One thing I would like to point out, I found a couple of corrections on Doug's numbers, and I just regret that he's not here to hear me say that.
He's listening. He's waiting for you to know.
The first one on the DOI, that number he has in there is the total budget, which includes salaries and all of the overhead for running the program. The actual scholarship funding is $512,000. And then there is a general fund budget, which was established for the Pell Scholarship specifically, which isn't listed here, and that's $1,425,000. So that brings your total funding that is in the existing budget to $7,112,000. So the shortfall is not as much as what is listed on here. However, during the budget discussions, I think the intent when we put this budget together was that we actually funded $1,500 a semester for FY09, and then it was to come back to this committee for further discussion, which is what we're doing here today. Yes, will there be some carryover money coming forward? Yes, there will be. My caution on that would be, don't use carryover to fund an ongoing program, because once you set the expectation and you spend all the carryover, it's difficult to keep that program going. The other issue we are going to be facing for FY09 is potential revenue shortfalls. I'm reviewing all that with both C&E and the Tax Commission right now. Motor vehicle revenues are down a little bit. Interest is down. The dividend may be less than budget. So these are all things that we need to consider if we're looking at putting additional funds into the budget.
Mr. Hoskin, I think you were next. Mr. Baker.
Kelly,
Yes.
correcting Doug's numbers, what is the budget shortfall on this scenario of $2,000?
On this scenario, that first shortfall number would be approximately $3 million.
And you've got 2.7 in unearmarked, unappropriated balance, correct?
Correct.
See, we're almost there. Yes.
Ms. Jordan.
So we're about 300,000 short, is that what you're saying, Kelly?
For this year.
For this year, we're about 300,000.
For this
short.
year.
No, with the adjusted figures, when you take the budget shortfall, 3 million, then you take the earmarked amount of 2.7, and I'm just getting the bottom line to be 300,000. Is that right? Would that be right, Kelly?
If you take all of the...
If you take all of our surplus and you say, this is our only priority for 2009, yes. If you're assuming that everything that we have on the table right now should go towards scholarships, then yes.
But this is without carrying forward some money that should be coming forth pretty soon.
Right, carryover of unspent dollars from 08. Again, caution you on that. Revenues are soft for 09, and putting money into a program that's an ongoing expenditure using carryover dollars is not good fiscal management.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, I was just going to say, in my opinion, we need to keep it at the $1,500 to be fiscally responsible at this time. Because with, as Ms. Ketcher said, there may be budget shortfalls in revenue this year that we're going to have to look at also. So we don't know where we're going to wind up by 6 months from now. So I'm all for giving the students as much as possible, but if we don't have it at this point, I would say that we should not do it. And we should leave it at 1,500.
Ms. Watts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I totally agree with the Chair of Executive and Finance that we need to be fiscally responsible with the money we know we have and how we look at how we budget the tribal dollars. If I've done my algebra problem right, too, I am still greatly concerned about creating expectations for a certain amount of scholarship money with no commitment back to the tribe or to a better career choices and such along the degree. Because if you look at a 20% dropout rate, just going from 1,000 to 1,500, that's assuming the 20% dropout rate, you're costing each student potentially $100 of money that somebody's not being responsible for in Cherokee money that could have gone to students that are going to complete. And if you go from 1,000 to 2,000, I think if I've done it right, it's $200 per student that's lost to them that could help them complete, maybe if they're going to take a little bit longer or additional degree requirements. And so I still think it's not only just the fiscal situation the landscape that we're looking at, but it's also how we're asking them to account for those degree programs and going to school. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Baker?
Got it. At the 1,500, where does that put the budget?
You do some ciphering here.
Better you than I.
So at 1,500, which would be 3,000 per year, I think we're real close to being within the existing budget.
That's an expensive calculator.
If my calculator is operating properly, at 3,000 a student, that would be $6,180,000, and then I think we need to add to that the 500 catch up for the fall semester, which would be the 2,060 at 500, which would be another $1,030,000. So we're going to be real close, $1,030,000 and 6,180. That comes out to $7,210,000, and we have $7,112,000 in the budget, and that's not taking into consideration any dropouts. So our budget would be good, I think, as it stands, if we agreed on the $1,500 per semester.
And I'm reluctant to not have some wiggle room for Dr. Morton to implement his program, having open enrollment for, folks that didn't know they were going to get to go next semester and where they've always been blocked out for a whole year. So, I'm done.
Ms. Fisher-Hahn?
Yeah, I'm looking at the December 15th meeting, our minutes from that, and the motion as amended to give the students the remaining 500 now and 1,500 for the spring semester. That was December 15th. Have we give the students the 500?
We awarded for fall 08,
$1,500.
$1,500.
So you didn't give them the remaining 500?
No.
Can I ask why?
We actually were never authorized to go above $1,500 for that fall.
I'm curious because I'm confused, so Julia or Jack or Meredith, after the council passes something that says to do it, can you explain it to me, Jack?
It needed to go from here to executive finance and then to full council, and they never did any of those.
Why not?
Well, I don't know why. We also had a motion to table, and I'm not sure whether that was the same motion.
I think that we don't have an agenda for E&F yet, and since we had all the meetings at the same time in December, it would logically come up in E&F in January, would it not?
Yes, it
Then
would.
that would be the,
So this January, the end of this month, it goes from here where, I guess it passed 15 to E&F this month, where we're going to send it on to full council.
Right. If it passes either.
Okay.
okay. Ms. Jordan?
Kelly, in your calculations though, you were factoring the 500 in?
Yes, the DOI funds,
You calculated the 500 for the backside of last fall,
right.
and 1,500 for the spring, and 1,500 for the fall.
I believe I did 3,000 per student first, and then I went back and did 500 per student, and that's how I came up with the 7,200,000.
Okay. So it was close, but all of it was, you factored it all in.
Yes.
Ms. Fulbright?
That was my question.
Okay. Mr. Hoskins?
Well, I want to pose this question to Todd. What we did in the budget was not authority to spend the money that Councilor Fishingham just asked about? What further authority did the administration need?
Well, and I went back and go to tape, as they would say in sportscasting media, but we went back there and reviewed the DVD. Okay. The motion, and I believe was by Councilperson Fraley, was $2,000, okay, per student. And Ms. Jordan, stated that it was great that we were making an investment in the children's future. But there's not enough money in that line item. I mean, I guess it goes down to, I mean, we the motion could have said give them $10,000 apiece, but if you don't have the money, you're going to have to amend the budget. So it's at what rate of spending that you do. Now, and it was on 1,500 plus, it was originally 1,500 and plus the motion was the additional 500. I guess at the end of the day, there's not enough money at 2,000, and you all need to either change your spending rate or add money.
We authorized spending for which we didn't appropriate enough money. Is that what happened?
That's what it appears to me to be.
So it's a question of appropriating money.
Yes.
And this might be hyper-technical, but it's not a question of the authority that they, I'm still stuck on the fact that they seem to have had a responsibility to spend the money or notify us that there was a shortfall and we could appropriate it. I'm a little troubled by the unilateral decision to say we're just not going to spend it. We're just not going to.
Well, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it has been spent at the level that the $2,000 has been. It never got. It was only 1,500. That's educate me then. Well, what has been spent then? It was my understanding that they went to 2,000. That 2,000 per has been spent.
The fall semester scholarships came out of the 08 budget. That was $1,000. After the budget hearings and when the 09 budget was passed, an additional $500 was given to those students. My understanding, and I haven't gone back and listened to the tape, but my understanding from our discussions at the budget hearing was that's what this body intended education to do, because there was a lot of discussion about this report that education has prepared. And the last discussion I remembered was that we would pay them the $500 additional for the fall semester. Then the report would be reviewed in the education committee, and additional funds would be appropriated if that was the will of the council. But that's, I know that we had a long discussion during the budget hearings, and I could be wrong on that, but effectively, this committee is taking that up again, and a decision, a clear decision, needs to come out of this. And if we decide we're going to fund at a higher level, we need more money in the budget.
I think you still have
Okay, and this is more of a comment or an observation. I mean, we may be short to come up with $2,000, and I know that for 2 years in a row, there have been new initiatives from the administration. And those cost money, and they've identified some priorities. I'm just not sure they're higher priority, all of them are higher priority than our higher ed budget, particularly given what we know about how much it costs to go to school. So I think the committee, we can't do it today probably, needs to look at those new initiatives and decide whether all of them are worthy of support, or maybe that's a source for shoring up this for our students. Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that in order to clarify things, we pay $1,500 bonus, which is already, $1,500 scholarship, which has already been paid for the fall semester, $1,500 for the spring semester, and $1,500 for the fall semester of 09.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Discussion? We've already told the kids they were going to get $2,000 for the fall semester. And they were going to get the $500 on the backside for finishing the semester. So now we're going to go back on our word. Now we've got that money. We have that $500. Last month in committee, we reaffirmed we were going to pay that $500. So now, with everything that's been in the news, folks, of how much money we're spending, we're going to tell these kids they're not going to get the $500. We've told them already twice they were going to get. I would ask you to consider an amendment to your motion to leave it at $2,000 for the fall semester that's already gone, and then let's go from there. Let's don't not give them what. Let's keep our word, which we've reaffirmed twice now. Jack, I would ask you to consider that as a friendly amendment.
Actually, what I would like to see, if we pass the $1,500, then we can go back and address the $500 as a separate issue. And that's because I want to see that we have the money to pay the $500.
Kelly just said we've got the money to pay the $500.
No. That was,
No. This is where it gets confusing in our budget cycle. The additional $500 was because the fall semester came out of last year's budget at $1,000. Then paying the extra $500 is for the fall of 09, or I'm sorry, the fall of 08 academic
That you've already paid.
that we had already paid. So that would bring us to $1,500 per student for fall of 08. Then spring of 09 and fall of 09 comes out of our fiscal year 09 budget. And each of those would be at $1,500 per semester. So that's how I calculated it. And the $500 that we talked about was to bring the fall 08 semester up to $1,500, not up to $2,000.
Counselor Soap?
Yeah, I was just curious on the numbers for the current funding appropriations. When we did the roll-up for the budget, Callie, how do you calculate that? Is it on a $1,500 per semester basis, or it's obvious that it didn't include 2,000? So I think that's the question that Councilor Hoskins was asking, was that you know, to understand what has transpired here, when we did the budget, it was not in fact figured and went through the budget approval process at 2,000.
No.
Is that the understanding?
That's the understanding, and that was my understanding. It was
We might
never,
have talked about it, but when you roll the sheets up and you and Doug talked together, that's at 1,500, is that what?
yeah, that was my understanding. And that's what effectively is in the budget, with doing the catch-up for fall semester of '08 at $500. We have enough in the budget to fund spring '09 and fall '09 at the $1,500.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Watts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that when it came down to the documentation and stuff, I think it was still unclear even after you listened to the full spectrum of discussion and stuff. And I guess my mind, was not clear that day when we voted, because I remember being left with the impression when I left the meeting that we may have funded the 2,000 for last semester, but it was supposed to be like a one-time, we're going to get this extra because we realize there's these costs. But then we've got to go look at our budget because we don't know what that impact will be, and we don't know if we can continue it, which was one of my concerns, in addition to what I've already talked about, is that we're setting expectations I didn't know that we could continue to meet financially, given the softening revenues at CNE and other things. So the reality is that we're tasked with doing some hard things sometimes and looking at what the budget actually does. We might could find more money to fund the kids that are going to school. If we could ask those kids, we could guarantee more money if we pay it on the back end when we know you've gone to school and finished, because we will have less people that finish. I mean, maybe we need to look at this differently. But again, this is a longer discussion and more research and time needs to be put into it. If we're going to really effectively long-term impact the kids and fundamentally change the program to increase the dollars to the students. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. Cobb?
No, ma'am, I have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, my motion for the 1,500 for the fall semester is because that's all that we have the money in the budget for now. And the reason I would like us to address the other 500 for the fall semester separately is because to do that, we're going to have to find another $1 million to do that. So I just want to clarify why you're not accepting the amendment.
Ms. Fulbright?
Well, I guess we all remember things differently, but the original motion that Speaker Fraley made was to give them $2,000 for fall. And there was to be an analysis and a study done, and then there would be a contingency on what we would do next. So I think we need to honor that 2,000. But as far as what is for this coming budget, I'm not sure of. I like Councilman Carol Watt's idea of backloading it and paying them the additional money, if any, at the end of the semester upon completion, because so many of them drop out, and it would save us a tremendous amount of money and reward those who actually complete the semester. Because as I was telling you a few minutes ago, I know a young lady who had already quit. She got the first original $1,000, dropped out of school, and got the additional $500. You know, so I can see where we need to put a part of the money at the end of the semester.
Ms. Fisher-Mock?
You know, you're right, we are tasked with doing hard things, and we are tasked with doing stuff like sticking to our work. And I admit it's a hard thing to do. But folks, when I tell my child I'm going to do something, I don't not do it. What in the world are you teaching your kids? Y'all need to think about that. What are we teaching these kids? All I'm requesting is we do what is right, what we said we'd do. I feel like we wouldn't be having this conversation so late in the year when we've appropriated money every time that the county's brought it forward for something else. Had it been done when we wanted to do it, because we would have addressed it earlier. And although some people say they don't remember the budget hearings, folks, once again, I'm looking at December 15th a month ago. It was 15 to 2, so evidently 15 people remembered we was giving them 500 on top of 1,500. And once more, I ask you to do what is right and what you do for your kids.
Mr. Thornton?
I don't know if I had this right, I've listened to several stories, but we did come across with 1,500 for the fall semester of 08. Right. Now we're talking about 1,500 for the spring semester, and that's what Mr. Baker suggested. Promised 2,000. I would suggest that we come across with the 2,000 for the spring semester, come back and pass the 1,500 for the next fall semester, and then look for the extra funding from the new initiatives or from the budget that we get in October, that we start a new budget at that time, and we could reappropriate into that budget the $2,000 for that semester. But go ahead and promise them 1,500 for next semester, and then increase it when we come up with the funding, because we don't have the funding right now to do that. And that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Of course, we're actually in the new business item of discussion, possible action on funding for the university scholarships, which was the report that Dr. Morton put together, showing that how far the $1,000 went, even 5 years ago versus what it does now. So, I mean, I guess I'm a little confused in the motion, because it's actually on the next item of business, I believe. But I guess, the discussion and what's at hand right now is, as a government, and Brad, I think, is the one that made the motion, said, hey, I can't be for 15. I might be able to be for 2,000, because I don't think $1,500 is enough. And I think he was probably right on track, that 2,000 is much, much closer to keeping the kids whole and all. And I understand the incentives on the back end, but folks, the truth is, when you don't have money to go, that's why most people drop out. It is they get against the wall and they don't have the money and they can't afford to stay. And so the more money you can give them up front, the more chances of them being able to stay in school and staying hooked is going to be. Jack's made a motion to give $1,500, so I guess if I vote no, I'm against giving the kids $1,500. When in fact, I'm at the point now that Brad was. I really want to give him 2,000. So I wish the motion and all was worded a little different and more about, well, let's take $500 away from them so that I could, my vote would be more reflective of what's going on. I mean, we've got, Callie says we're $1.4 million short now. Is that right? Or back to $1 million? Which is it?
At 2,000.
We would need an additional $1 million in the budget to cover the 500 for the fall semester.
At 2,000.
And we've got 2.1 in unappropriated dollars. I mean, if in fact $1 million's all we're short, I'd make a friendly amendment that we take $1 million and keep it at 2. If that's the right number.
Is this just for the fall semester?
Are you talking about a one-time 2,000, or are you talking about?
I prefer the year.
Okay. For the year, you're looking at 3.2, which is basically Doug's number corrected for that budget that was stated incorrectly on there. That's before taking into account anything that's in our budget right now as surplus.
Mr. Baker is correct. We have slipped into item 1 under new business in our discussion. These two, the old business and the new business, were very closely linked, and so that was probably my latitude in allowing this to happen. But nevertheless, we've had some extensive discussion here. I have 2 more people. We seem to be slowing a little bit. I have 2 more people to speak, and I'm going to ask that we go ahead and vote after those 2 have offered their comments on the motion that is on the floor right now. So Dr. Cobb, I had you next.
I have a question, Dr. Morton. Was there any kind of communication sent out to students telling them that it was $2,000? Any shape or form? No. Okay. I find it somewhat irresponsible to say that we told people they're going to get $2,000 when A, it didn't go to executive finance, and B, it didn't go to full council. I find that at best irresponsible.
Point of order. It was in all the area newspapers.
Because of what?
I don't know why. I didn't have anything to do with it. It was in all the area newspapers. We were going to give those kids $2,000.
Well, irregardless if it was in the newspaper, without something going through executive finance and full council,
No, this was last fall, Brad. This was last fall. It was in the newspaper.
Dr. Cobb.
So, that being said, I am in favor of $2,000, but I would like to comment on one thing that Councilor Hoskins said. Maybe we do need to look at some of these initiatives. And without getting into some kind of a budget shortfall, look at some of those. I think that's a great idea. I think it's one thing we need to do. It's not something we're going to end up doing today. Also, Councilor Baker, he is chair of Executive and Finance for a reason, and I think we do need the time if we're going to bump this to 2, which I do think we need to do. But I'm also, for being fiscally responsible, I think we need to give him the time and the committee the time to find out where we're going to find that money. So that's my 3 cents worth.
Mr. Crittenden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All of this discussion is I guess, good to kick things around. We're dealing with our young people and the future of our country here, and my understanding of what we did is, I think, crystal clear, and it was a $2,000 a semester issue. I've spent a little bit of time in the last few days at different times answering people about the transition going on in Washington, D.C. and $50,000 that we were credited with having something to do with, and I didn't know anything about it until it hit the papers. That was pretty easy for me to defend. I could say I didn't know nothing about it. It wasn't my doing. You'll have to ask somebody else. Also, mostly behind that was the T-shirt thing. We spent a pretty good chunk of money on those 2 items. And I'll let history determine whether it was wisely spent or not. But I think we're dealing with the young people here, and when we talked about a $2,000 semester amount of money, it was in the local papers for whatever reason. Kids know about it. I'm going to have a hard time trying to defend whittling that back to $1,500 a semester. And I just kind of got a feeling that if I told somebody that something, or I was for something, I'm committed to staying with it. And I think responsible people do that. If we need to find some more money, I think we can find it. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I had said I was going to cut the discussion after these last 2 comments.
On clarification. On this vote, if we do nothing, if we don't even have the vote, will the kids get $1,500 this semester? Move to table.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to table and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Roll call, please.
Well, a point of clarification. If we vote yes, we're voting to take away the $500.
No, if you vote yes, you're voting to table.
Okay, so we're just going to do the table part.
Madam Chair, may I ask why we're tabling, Bill John? What's it?
I don't want to vote saying that I don't want to give the kids $1,500, and when in fact I want to give more. I mean, the way the motion is made to give them, we've already done that. It's already gone to executive finance. It's already gone to full council. It is the law of the land that they get the 15 no matter what, because that is fully budgeted for. So this is really a no. I mean, it's a put vote. It makes no difference whatsoever. They're going to get the 15 this semester. They're going to get the 15 next semester if we don't do anything, because that money is appropriated for.
Mr. Baker.
Okay. The money's appropriated, but it's not been clear as to how much they should receive. And that was the main purpose of my motion, was to clarify this amount. And then I still am not opposed to addressing adding additional funds to it or taking funds away, whatever, in a separate motion, either today or at a later date in executive finance or wherever. The mine is to clarify what is to be done right now, and then we can change.
Point of clarification.
Call for question.
Well, here we are. Okay.
Table is not debatable.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Okay, the motion to table is not debatable, not amendable. The point of clarification was appropriate and it has been answered, but the good dialogue going back and forth, you're eventually getting close into debating the table motion. So you would need to go ahead and take your vote on tabling. But I guess as a further point of information to the committee, that apparently at the last Education Committee, there was a directive of $2,000 that will be on the Executive Finance meeting this
$500.
I'm sorry, hang on.
Is that you?
We needed a bit of levity here, so
I never turn it on.
but I guess so. Tabling would be an appropriate vote at this time, and like I said, as a point of information, you're going to have this $2,000 debate already on executive finance coming up the end of this month, correct? Okay.
So the vote is to table. There is no discussion on a vote to table. We've taken a vote. It's close, and so we're going to ask for the roll call on the vote to table.
Bill Anglin?
No.
Bill John Baker?
Yes.
Jack Baker?
No.
Carly Buzzard?
No.
Julia Coates?
No.
Bradley Cobb?
No.
Joe Crittenden?
Pass.
Jody Fishinghawk?
Yes.
Meredith Fraley?
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright?
Yes.
Don Garvin?
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.?
Yes.
Tina Glory Jordan?
Yes.
Curtis Snell?
No.
Chris Soap?
No.
David Thornton?
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts? No. Joe Crittenden?
Yes.
We have 8 yes to table and 9 no to not table.
So the motion of Mr. Baker's is still alive and is on the table, and I have said that I would take those last 2 comments and that would be the discussion. So I would ask that we go ahead.
This is on a motion.
Mm-hmm.
Is that appropriate, even though you cut off questioning?
I think so. Is there a point of order?
We normally do not have a limited time to debate. It's really the privilege of the chair. The chair is called for to cut off the debate. If someone would want to appeal the decision of the chair to cut off debate, a majority vote would allow debate. So,
Even on a motion to amend his motion?
his motion can be amended at any time.
That's,
Not using it for.
that's my purpose.
Okay. Yeah, because, there's been a couple of attempts to do a friendly amendment that were rejected. If you wish to amend the motion,
Right.
it would need a motion and a second.
And just for clarification, Bill John's friendly amendment was rejected by Councilman Baker. I knew that was the case, but that is the case. I may need to yield to Mr. Baker to restate his friendly amendment, but I would put that in the form of a motion to Mr. Baker's motion. I mean, an amendment to Mr. Baker's motion. I think it was 2,000 for going forward.
Well, I would have made that.
Well, he rejected it as a friendly, and it hasn't been voted on by the body.
Okay. Well, the motion actually was to give 2,000 this semester until we could find the funding for 2,000 for the second semester.
I would put that in the form of a motion to amend, not a friendly amendment. That would
Wait, do I have a second? Is there a second?
He was the second.
Are you the second, Mr. Fun? Oh, you're making a motion, you're the second?
Oh, it's fine with me. Is that your motion?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I'll second.
He's the motion, he's the second.
He's the motion, he's the second. Mr. Thornton.
Did you need the 2,000 this spring semester, and then try to get the funding for the next fall semester?
Correct. When carry forward comes forward.
Mr. Soap?
Yeah, I just would like to say that I think that if we're concerned about this body sending confusing signals and mixed signals at this point in time, and there is some confusion here, I think that that's what we need to be focused on primarily, is to find out the root cause of how we can make motions and then not get rolled up into the budget portion by both accounting entities. I think that just the yo-yo effect of going up and down on this issue is not something that we want to do, or at least that I don't want to do. So I think that I would not vote for the additional money at this time.
Mr. Baker?
Actually, it was clarified as which semester. Thank you.
All right, and in the interest of not yo-yoing around and not seeing any other hands, let's go ahead and vote on this amendment to the motion.
Madam Chair, can you
Yeah,
tell us exactly again
what we're voting on? As I'm understanding it.
It is an amendment to Jack's motion.
Right.
That-
2,000.
That says that we take appropriated dollars and, not new dollars, the appropriated dollars, give the kids $2,000 this semester with a pledge that we'll come back and find the dollars for the extra $500 for next semester.
Okay. Clarify it for you, Dr. Cobb?
Yes.
Ms. Ketcher?
In terms of the budget, I just want to clarify in my own mind so that I'm not confused. The impact of this motion with the budget that exists today would be paying a $2,000 scholarship for the spring semester, correct?
Is this spring?
Yes, this is spring 2009. What that would leave in the budget
Would have to be added.
what it would leave in the budget as it exists today would be $1,000 for the fall of 2009 semester. So just so I'm clear on what we're discussing here, in effect, what we have in our budget is sufficient for $3,000 for fiscal year 09, and this motion would split it $2,000 this semester and $1,000 for the fall semester, being fully funded.
Correct.
Clarification, but that does not include 2,000 for the fall semester, is it?
No, she is absolutely correct. There's 1,000 for the fall, and unless this body comes forth and appropriates more dollars, that's what they'll get.
No, I mean fall of 08, the one that's already.
No, that's already paid.
The 1,500 was back.
No, well, no, that, no,
That's
that,
why I want to be
now,
clear.
no, I'm talking about 2,000 right now. And it'll give us $1,000 per student for the first semester of next year, unless we can come back and get more money.
So in essence, I would change my motion from 1,500 to 1,500 for the fall semester, 2,000 for the spring semester, and 1,000 for the fall.
This is actually a separate motion, is it not?
But he's,
No, he amends mine.
but
The amendment to yours, right.
So that would be
with the plans that we want to try to put more with the,
Yeah, but it's, let's clarify, your motions, change mine would be 1,500 for the fall semester, 2,000 for the spring semester of '09, and 1,000 for the fall semester of '09 with the hopes of finding a Thank you.
All right. All in favor of the motion on the floor to amend Jack's motion to $2,000 for the spring of '09? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk.
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright.
Yes.
Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
yes.
Tina Glory Jordan.
Yes.
Curtis Snell.
No.
Chris Soap.
No.
David Thornton.
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts. No.
No.
Buell England.
No.
Bill John Baker.
Yes.
Jack Baker.
No.
Harley Buzzard.
No.
Julia Ketz.
No.
Bradley Cox.
No.
Eight yes and 9 no.
Okay. Proceeding forward then,
Call the
Mr.
question.
Baker's motion remains, the question is called. This would be the 1,500 for the spring and 1,500 for the fall of '09, is that correct? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? We have a unanimous vote then on that motion. Seeing no other new business, we have effectively, I think, had the discussion. Next, we have announcements. Are there any announcements this time?
Madam Chair, can I have more personal privilege?
Yes.
We've been asked, we, the Cherokee Nation, have been asked to sponsor an event by Hard Rock Seminole for $10,000. I asked, when I talked to the chief about it, he said that he would take $5,000 of his budget if the council would take $5,000 out of their budget. I talked to Doug, and he said we have approximately $35,000 in this sponsorship account, and it does not require a vote, but in the mode of transparency, I think we all should know what has been asked of us. And if you have any questions, I'll be around.
Are we doing it?
Yeah, 5,000.
Well, just count me on the record as a big no.
That's
We
me too.
can't give it to the kids, but we can give it to the Hard Rock people.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all.